Good morning, good morning, good morning. Good morning, freedom marchers, freedom family, freedom lovers, freedom fighters. Snapzilla Gorillas in the building, hitting y'all upside the head with this morning paper. Hold on just a second. Damn it. What the fuck? Man, I'm glad I waited. I was gonna do this live stream yesterday, but I didn't really feel like it. But I'm glad I waited, man, because ooh wee, ooh we have things escalated. That escalated quickly. Um, yeah. So today we're going to be talking about, you know, death threats and who is believable and who's not when it comes to death threats in the social media influencer space, right? That's what we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about Tim Puddle's crash out. We're going to talk about Candace Owens being fed deliberately bad information, I believe, because I haven't been in the military myself. When she went into some military stuff last night during her live stream, I raised my eyebrows at least 80 times. All right, during a story she was conveying to us. So, you know, oh boy, you really gotta laugh at things, right? You really gotta laugh at certain things. But we're gonna get into it. First, I want to talk about this idea, Candace Owens' belief, or Candace Owens saying that her life has been threatened, or the French have put a hit out on her and all that stuff. How all people in that space, basically in the same space as Tim Pool and others, Nick Fuentes and all those types of people, they decide that they don't believe Candace Owens, but every other day they're complaining about their own life being threatened, or they're talking about how, oh, my studio was shot at, or my security shot at somebody at, these people are breaking in, I'm getting swatted. These are the same individuals that are bitching and moaning about having their life threatened every day. These are the same people that are saying that Candace Owens' belief that her life is under threat is basically bullshit, right? Unbelievable. Like, there's no possible way Candace Owens' life is under threat. Now, I have no idea, right, whether or not Candace Owens' life is really under threat. I have no idea. I don't, I have no idea. She's presented some information. She has, talked about how she has credible information and evidence of this, evidence of that, evidence of the third. And then these other people have also made those same claims. Now, they're not saying the French government is trying to kill them, but they say that their lives are threatened every day. I get emails about threats. People drive by my house and fire off shots and all this bullshit. Listen, once you reach that level and you start talking about things and you have a certain amount of reach and influence, certain people aren't going to like it. Certain people aren't going to like it, whether it's a trans, furry, loving Terracell member, or whether it's Israel or the French government. Like, these things are very real, right? These are realities. And for someone like Tim Puddle, and I'm talking about him in particular because of his the huge crash out he's been having over Candace Owens. When people like that come out and just outright say that Candace is lying or whatever the case may be, I have to question whether you were lying every time you talked about how You were under threat. And in this latest drama of Tim Pool, he claimed that his house was shot at. Yeah, he said his house was shot at. And, you know, people are obviously questioning it now because he's questioning, or he's basically denying and saying Candace Owens' life is another. Like, she's lying, she's making it up, it's not true. Well, when people ask you to provide proof and evidence of your claims, you don't feel the need to do so. This is something that we have to come to terms with when we look at these influencers and we fall into the cult of personality. Cult of personality is very real, right? I tend not to fall under that because I pay attention to what a person is saying versus who they are. What are you saying? Is there any truth or facts to what you're saying? I follow the facts. I follow the truth behind what a person is saying. I don't fall in love with personalities, especially personalities of people I have no idea. I don't know who you are, right? All I see is what you present to me on your platform. I don't know you from Adam, right? I have no idea who you are. But if you are telling a truth, or if you are conveying a fact, I'm going to take that and I'm going to say this person is speaking facts in this regard. And if you take a lie and you spew a lie, I'm going to point out that lie. I'm going to point out the bullshit. See, when you don't fall in a cult of personality, it's very easy to do that. And I'm going to get into some bullshit. It's very easy for me to point out some bullshit Candace Owens is saying. Because, well, obviously, I don't fall into the cult of personality. Nor do I have this derangement syndrome that people assign to people that don't like Donald Trump. Right? You know how they say Trump derangement syndrome? See, you have cult of personality, then you have the derangement syndrome. Those are two extremes. Two opposite of extremes of how you perceive an individual. I don't have the derangement, nor do I have the cult of personality disorder. So, when Candace Owens goes on her show and tells a story about someone who claims to be and Contra, you know, we know what that is, right? That's when, you know, that's when the United States was involved in trafficking hella amount of drugs into this country. Anyway, good morning to Black Spring with Autumn. Salute to you. Salute to the Queen, Black Spring with Autumn. How you doing this morning? We do know that the biggest drug pusher in the United States is the United States government. So let's just get that out the way, right? Crack. The crack epidemic was made possible by the government. Anyway, so this guy claims to Candace Owens that he was involved in the Iran-Contra and all this bullshit about how he was in the tunnels and he saw this and he's trying to whistleblow and all that. And I'm like, Now, she said that he was able to provide in receipts of his having been in the military and all that, which could be very possible. This guy could very well have been in the military, right? She trusts him based on what he showed to her to prove that he was in the military. But then he gets into this story about how he went back to visit the place that he was stationed at and how somehow he stumbled across a command post for a bunch of top brass, right? And then she's like, E4s, E5s, and E6s. And I'm like, huh? Now, she said E4, E5, E6s that are basically lieutenant colonels and colonels. And I'm like, wait, what? Surely she's mistaken, right? Because colonels and lieutenant colonels, well, you can't be an E4, an E5, or an E6 and be a colonel or a lieutenant colonel. Because if your pay grade starts with an E, that basically denotes that you are an enlisted member, right? And if you're an E5 or an E6, you're a non-commissioned officer, right? You then become, you have to go through a certain training, right? They train you in the military. Once you become a non-commissioned officer, you have to go through training. You got to get on the list. Anyway, if you're an E5 or an E6, you are not going to be a colonel or a lieutenant colonel or a butter bar, which is a lieutenant, a butter bar, or nothing. Because, well, that would be an O. You would have to have an O, right? Your pay grade is 01, 02, 03, 04, 05, 06. And I'm like, well, maybe she's mistaken, right? But she's reading from what this guy wrote to her. And if she's reading it essentially verbatim, and he wrote E4, E5, E6, and he's telling you that these are colonels and lieutenant colonels, then either he doesn't know what the fuck he's talking about, and he never served, and whatever he showed you to prove that he served was fabricated, or he's feeding you bullshit on purpose. There is no in between. There is no in between. There's no way you served in the military at all for any length of time and not know the difference between an E4, E5, E6 or an 05, 04, 05, 06. There's no way that you can mistake an enlisted person to be. There's no way. So either he never served and basically he's committing stolen valor, or he did serve and he's purposely feeding you bullshit. And you did not vet the information enough to verify his claims. Candace, baby girl, listen, that ain't the right way to do it, sweetheart. You understand what I'm talking about? Enlisted in officer ranks, yes. If you're enlisted, that means that basically you were you signed, and there's a difference, right? If you're a commissioned officer, that means that you came in under contract. Enlisted, you don't come in under contract, right? If you were an officer that you came in under contract, you basically agreed to serve a certain whatever. It doesn't fucking matter. There's a difference between an E and an O when it comes to pay grade. And the fact that she put this shit out there, I you know, at this stage in her career, having been involved in politics, meeting so many people, going to the White House, coming across all manner of individuals in the right-wing conservative influencer space, I find it hard to believe that she doesn't know the fucking difference. And if she doesn't know the difference, then she wasn't paying attention and she's not doing enough due diligence. Because it's very important. It's very important. If you're going to tell us that some guy who was prior military came across and was involved in extremely sensitive, god damn it, extremely sensitive information, extremely sensitive situations during his service. He's telling you that these guys are E4 goddamn lieutenant colonels and all this bullshit. What are we doing? She should know better than that. Real talk. She needs to consult with prior military individuals. She needs to talk to people. Like, before you put this type of information out there, she should have definitely ran it by somebody who served. Send them the fucking email that this dude sent. Right? Because right now you look crazy as hell. And people are trying to correct you in the chat. And you are dismissed. You're like, whatever. They're telling you they can't be E4, E5, or E6 lieutenant fucking colonels. And then you say, this guy was Special Forces, EOD. EOD Special Force. Listen. EOD is Explosive Ordnance Division. They are not Special Forces, right? They're not. It's explosive ordnances. Like that's all it is. I mean, it's not a Special Forces unit. Now, you might have EOD individuals. Like, EOD is an MOS. I forgot what the nomenclature is, but it's an MOS, just like NBC is an MOS, right? That is the chemical guys, right? The chemical people that deal with chemical biological agents. That I forgot what NBC stands for, but these are different MOSs. They're not Special Forces though. But you might have an NBC soldier or an EOD soldier attached to a Special Forces unit. They might go through Special Forces training as an EOD member, as an NBC guy. What is it? Something biological and chemical. I forgot what the N stands for. Pardon me. But you are not, Candace, this looks very bad. Anybody that knows anything or has any, like, Tim Pool probably has a bunch of military guys that are rocking on his side that are going to give him this information. Is going to tear you apart. It's going to destroy your credibility. It's going to destroy your credibility. And this is something that people, because you might be telling the truth about a lot of different shit. You think the 10th Mountain is out of New York? She did mention the 10th Mountain, didn't she? I don't know. But it's just not a good look, right? And some people are going to look at this and say, yeah, this proves that Candace Owens is full of shit. But the way I look at it, it's like, well, to me, it tells me she actually might be telling the truth. But she's just being gullible and paranoid, right? She's being gullible and paranoid because she's taking all these tips. And she's running with these tips. And, she's gotten a lot of tips from a lot of people. And she's been vetting people, apparently, supposedly. And for some reason, she believed this guy. And if she were controlled opposition, she would not be putting, in my opinion, she would not be putting out this type of bullshit at all. But maybe, yes, nuclear biochemical. Thank you, Dan Frank. Thank you. I appreciate that. But at the same time, this might be a way for her, like if she's controlled opposition, she might be doing this on purpose to further confuse the people, right? We have to be very careful about these psychological operations. This is why I say we take what's what are facts, what are verifiable facts and truths, and we separate it from the bullshit. Even if the bullshit and the truth are coming from the same people, we can't discredit everything because of the bullshit, right? He was hired to bang bang pow pow her. I don't know who you talking about. Are you talking about the guy, the hairy guy? I don't know. As the Romans perfected, and the tactic that has been used ever since, divide and conquer. Yes. Now, this is why you don't fall, or you shouldn't fall into the cult of personality, because now, right, if Candace Owens is putting this shit out there, people are so focused and hanging on to Candace as a personality. People are so they're so attached to Tim Pool as a personality. They're attached to Nick Fuentes and all these other individuals as personalities. And what happens is when you meet your heroes, right? You know how they tell you don't meet your heroes because they'll disappoint you? Well, this is why. This is why it's important not to look at any individual as this hero that is so, to you, they're so infallible. They can do no wrong. Because when they do wrong, and that wrong thing is exposed and hyper focused on, right? You tend to you something snaps in you. You're like, oh no, I can't believe it. Well, when it comes to Candace Owens and this clear bullshit that she put out last night, I'm like, well, yeah, that was bullshit. But other things that she talked about are facts. And they will remain facts whether she puts bullshit out or not. Right? Like the left-right paradigm lie. We know that's bullshit and that's facts. Right? Like the fact that all these politicians are bought and paid for by the same PAC special interest groups, the banks, all these different entities that really run this country through your political parties that you may not be aware of. When she points those facts out, they're still facts. Whether or not she tells you that an E4 and E5 and E6 are lieutenant fucking colonels. It doesn't matter. It's just some bullshit that she told us. That doesn't negate or dismiss the truths that she put out. But of course, obviously, they're going to use that, and then they're going to they're going to convince you that nothing she says is credible. And that's going to convince you, well, maybe the government is telling the truth. Maybe the government is really for the people when, well, we know they're really not. But people like Tim Pool, they're out there to keep you on track with believing the government narratives, believing the government lie, by telling you that Occam's razor tells you that the scenario with the least amount of the scenario that has the least amount of assumptions is the probably the likely scenario. Well, we know that the FBI narrative in regards to what happened to Charlie Kirk is the one that has the most assumptions, right? But they'll tell you that it's the one that has the least because, well, it's because the government is telling you that this is the scenario. This is the situation. The government is capable of telling you a scenario that is a bunch of bullshit, right? The idea that the government is not going to lie to you, the idea that the government is not going to bullshit you, the idea that the government is not going to lie to you, well, it's just that. It's bullshit because they do it every day. That's how they stay in power. That's how they remain in power. That's how they spread power. That's how they gain more power, by lying by lying, deceiving, creating chaos, creating division. This is what they do. This is what Candace Owens has been telling people during this period, since, not just since Charlie Kirk died, but since October 7th, right? She has been on that, right? And then, whether she was focused on the Israeli genocide of the Palestinians, whether it's Brigitte Macron, right? Whether it be the situation surrounding Charlie Kirk's death. She has been pointing out and exposing the bullshit. And what has Tim Pool been doing? What has other individuals, Turning Point USA, all these people, they have been telling you that the government narrative is the true narrative, even though they can't explain to you how Charlie Kirk's neck stopped the 30-06 round at 135 yards, which would put the speed of the bullet at the velocity at about 23 to 2,500 feet per second. A round traveling at that speed is not going to be stopped by Charlie Kirk's neck, point blank and period. How Tyler Robinson had the weapon taken apart, got up on the roof, put the weapon together, changed clothes, fired the shot, took the weapon apart, left the screwdriver on the roof, got down off the roof, went into the woods, put the weapon back together without the screwdriver. They can't explain that to you. They can't tell you how that makes any sense. How Tyler Robinson, he didn't want to get caught, right? It was his mission not to get caught. But he texts his furry lover, confesses to his furry lover, while at the same time telling him he wanted to go to his grave with this secret, and then tell him, but you know what? My confession is under the keyboard. Oh yeah, I don't want to get caught, but I'm going to explain to you in this text message how I'm waiting for police to get to the gun. And it's just complete and utter bullshit. Tells you, look, I left the confession under the keyboard. These people that are telling you, the FBI is telling the truth. The FBI is believable. They're the same ones. They're not explaining any of these discrepancies. They just, you see, this is what they do. They pull you in with their personalities because this is what they do, right? That's why they shield and grift for. This is what they do. Brother True Titan's in the building. Salute to my brother Drew Titan. Salute to you, my brother. Every human is full of BS when the time is right. Exactly. That's why it's important not to fall into the cult of personality, because they'll draw you in with their person. They'll be bombastic. They'll be flamboyant. They'll present something different to you that this guy is so great. They draw you in with their personality, and then they lead you down a path of bullshit, but you're blinded because you're just focused on, this guy or gal, she's just so great. She's saying everything I want to hear. You support Candace? Says AR Patriot. I support the truth. I support the facts, no matter who they come from, right? Because see, this is what they do. Let me go back. Tim Pool used to be an Occupy Wall Street Democrat. Then when COVID-19 came around, what did he do? He sold you on the government lie that this shit was real, that everything they were telling you about COVID was real. He told you that forcing you to wear a mask, telling you can't go outside, the 6-foot fucking bullshit rule, and all this other shit that they told you about COVID-19 that was complete and utter bullshit. He told you, you need to trust the government. This thing is real. All this, that, and the third. Yeah, he was one of those individuals that convinced you that they were telling the truth about COVID with nothing to support it. Anthony Frosty told you. What did he tell you in the beginning? Wearing a mask, it won't do anything, right? Because it's a fucking virus. Wearing an N95 mask is not going to... They told you to wear an N95 mask. N95 mask was designed for tuberculosis. Tuberculosis is a bacteria that is much larger, hundreds of times larger than a virus. And a virus, N95 mask is not going to stop that. He told you that if you're asymptomatic, you're not going to be spreading basically the disease if you're not symptomatic. That's what he told you in the beginning. Told you that it won't help them or wear the mask. Told you. Guess what? If you're not symptomatic, you're likely not going to spread the virus. And then 2 weeks later, they told you, you got to wear a face flag. You got to wear a mask. You got to, even if you're asymptomatic, you're still going to spread the disease. Never in the history of germ theory was that any type of hypothesis. And that's not even close to part of the hypothesis of germ theory or Koch's postulate or any other postulate they came up with. Oh yeah, he backtracked on everything, didn't he? When it was convenient, he changed it up, just like other people. When I was telling you from the very beginning, if you go back to 2019, 2020, when they started spreading the fear porn about COVID-19, I was telling y'all, I don't know about the shit they're telling you about. But I'm not a doctor or a scientist at all. But I knew they're telling you this is a novel virus. They don't really know much about it, but they know enough to tell you, the 6-foot rule is real. Rob Curtis drops a $20 super chat. Salute to you, brother. Thank you for dropping that $20 super chat. I appreciate the support. Yes, the truth will always come to the surface. And what happened with COVID? What happened? What truth came to the surface? Well, the truth came back because Anthony Fauci told you the truth in the beginning. He told you the mask won't work. He told you that asymptomatic people are not going to spread the virus. Right? And then what happened? Well, that very thing came to light. Even though when you go buy the mask, what does it say on the box? When they were telling you that you can wear a mask and stop the spread. Realize in the building, salute to you, Realize. Why don't you have a wrench? Is this a different channel? Let me wrench you up. The box told you that it won't stop COVID or it won't stop a virus. What are we talking about? But yet, these are what these people told you. And the same people that rode the wave of COVID-19 when it was popular to not believe the government narrative for COVID-19, that's what they did. They told you that the government was lying. But they tried to convince you that Donald Trump, he was being manipulated by Anthony Fauci. Right? That's what he told you. He blamed it all on it. That's what they did. That's what they do. They blame it on Anthony Frosty. But Donald Trump put Anthony Fauci in place. The point of the matter is that these people, they draw you in with their personalities and they tell you what to believe and what not to believe. They tell you you're foolish if you believe this. They tell you you're not foolish if you don't believe that. Then they tell you there's no way that Candace Owens' life is under threat. She's lying. But every other day, those same individuals are telling you they're threatened all the time. Fascinating. Are you talking about Fauci? Yeah, he was there in the 80s, right? During, we know what happened with the AIDS, right? With the AIDS and HIV. We know what Anthony Frosty was involved with during the HIV and AIDS pandemic scare, right? We know that. But that's another. I talked about that before. I talked about that a few years ago, right? Because there was a lady he worked with at that time that basically told you about the HIV AIDS bullshit. But that's another story. Anyway, these same individuals, because see, Candace Owens is kicking their ass in views and ratings. And a lot of people are believing Candace Owens. They're rocking with Candace because she says a lot of the right things. She says a lot of the true things. And the people opposite her, like Tim Pool and Nick Fuentes and whoever else, the Brandon Tatum's, all of Turning Point USA, they're trying to convince you that the government narrative is real. And if you believe the government narrative about Charlie Kirk, that means that you believe the government narrative, period. You got to rock with the government or you don't. That's what this is about. Fuentes is a Fued. A Fued. I believe that. Yeah. Yeah. Talmud Tatum. Absolutely. These motherfuckers are absolutely feds. But Candace Owens can be a fed too. That's why fuck the personality. Fuck the person. You don't know them from Adam. You don't know me. Don't just rock with me because you feel like I'm saying all the right shit. No. If I'm telling the truth, that's what we focus on. We focus on what's true. We focus on, that's it. Right? That's what the focus should be on. No, don't rock with me just because of me. No. If I'm saying true things, if I'm saying real things, if I'm pointing out the nonsense and the bullshit, that's what it should be focused on. Realize says, they say Fauci's the son of Mother Teresa. She was not who people think she was. Video circling around on Instagram. Well, I've never heard that. Charlie Kirk knew race was a social construct. Okay, then why did he say that basically black women are morons? He wouldn't say that, would he? Why would he say, if Charlie Kirk knew race was a social construct, why would he say, if I saw a black pilot about to fly the plane I'm in, he has to question whether the black pilot is qualified. He wouldn't need to say that type of shit, would he? No. People that believe that race is a social construct don't have those beliefs, and they don't spew that nonsense, right? He said specific names of well-known women that all happen to be black. DEI is BS, yet DEI benefited white women the most. White women were the greatest beneficiary of DEI, but he never said, if I saw a white female pilot, I'm questioning whether or not she's qualified. Yes, you tell the truth, people. You call out their poop, and that's why I follow you. Salute to you, Realize. Now, you can like me. That's fine. But if I'm spewing a bunch of bullshit, I'm spewing a bunch of bullshit. But if I'm telling truth, I'm telling truth. You got to be able to separate that, right? So, again, the people that are telling you that Candace Owens is not, they don't believe that her life is under threat by the French or anybody. They're like Tim Pool is saying, oh, well, Candace Owens, she ain't really got no security. She ain't worried for her life. Well, how do you know that? Right? Yet you want us to believe every time you say somebody swats you or somebody breaks into your building, we're just supposed to believe that. And when people ask you to provide receipts for it, you don't want to. I'm not going to show you. I'm not going to. And then when people call the sheriff department and the police department to determine whether you filed a police report. Well, they don't have any record. And then you say, oh, well, you claim that somebody shot at your house, and then your security team is investigating it, and you'll tell the police when you don't. Like, come on, guy. The crash out is real. Now, this is all theater. Understand that. In recognizing that this is theater, what can we learn from this theater? Because every time they need us distracted, this is what they do, right? They create a fucking fiasco. They create they give us bread and circuses. Right now, we got the bread and circus of Tim Pool versus Candace Owens. Nick Fuentes versus Piers Morgan. All these people. All the MAGA movement is crumbling. They're infighting. They have a civil war. They're fracturing. Donald Trump versus Marjorie Taylor Greene. Salute to Flying Guillotine in the building. Salute to my brother. Listen. I gotta get to this meat. But anyway, think about that. I want you guys to really think. What is going on right now that we're being so heavily distracted by the MAGA movement? That is what we should be concerned about right now. What the fuck is going on right now? Are they mobilizing? What type of mobilization do they have going on in Venezuela right now? That's what I'm worried about. What's going on in Venezuela? Right? Because that's their next move. That's why they want to pull out of the Ukraine. That's why they want to pull their support from the Ukraine. That's why they want to leave Ukraine. They want to stop funding him and giving him weapons. That's why Donald Trump told you, well, if the little man wants to fight, let the little man fight. Talking about Zelensky. That's why he pushed for the Israel and Gaza peace deal bullshit, the 20-point plan, because he wants to focus his military might and power down there in Venezuela. So my question is, what steps are they taking right now to get us closer to the Venezuelan invasion? Sam Hyde says, I think it's time for them to just let the best country win. That's how it should have been to begin with. Because understand, NATO had an agreement with Russia not to expand into the east, right? Into Eastern Europe. They didn't want, because Russia did not want NATO at their borders, right? Now, that's not the only reason they invaded. They invaded because they felt like, well, Ukraine was part of the USSR to begin with, blah, blah, blah. But all the bullshit, all this access to the Black Sea, and, it might have been a lot of different reasons. But at the end of the day, NATO was trying to use Ukraine as a proxy to encroach on Russia, right? It is what it is, guys. That's none of our fucking business. It's just not. But anyway, to say that Candace Owens the threat on Candace Owens' life is not really under threat. But at the same time, always complaining about your life is threatened and other people, their lives are threatened. What makes you any more of a target than Candace Owens, when Candace Owens is the one that is going against the grain? She's implicating uh, Iran. She's implicating Israel. She's implicating France. She said the French Foreign Legion killed Charlie Kirk, that they were involved in his assassination. You are the one that's towing the line. So you're towing a line that is very blurred right now. So whose life do you think would be more threatened if there was anything credible to what they were saying? You or Candace Owens? Because you're just going with the government narrative. You are the pro-Zionist shield. You know, you might have a couple nutbags obsessed with you or whatever. You know, some people that don't really have any resources that, you know, tried to break into your house, that probably shot it. Whatever the fuck happened. Well, the people, if Candace Owens is on the right track with this whole situation surrounding Charlie Kirk, the Macrons, Israel, and Egypt's involvement, if she's on track, well, the people that are going to come after her are not going to pull up to her house and fire a couple shots. That's not how they work. No. No, they wouldn't need to do that. Candace would not likely be targeted at her house by people like that. And before I get out of here, there is something that we have to pay attention to that turned out to be very real, that she provided receipts on. She provided receipts on the fact that Charlie Kirk was pulling his support from Israel in a text message days before his death. She was able to provide receipts for that and got a whole lot of people caught up in lies. Then she talked about how Charlie Kirk also, in a separate text message that she has several people confirm or whatever, that she has verified, according to her, that Charlie Kirk knew he was going to die on the day he died. And he told people this. Yeah. But did Turning Point USA come out and deny it like they tried to deny the text message he sent about pulling support from Israel? No, he didn't. They did not. And that's what is very interesting, right? If Charlie Kirk knew he was going to die the day he was going to die, you have to ask yourself, well, what the fuck did he hear? What information did he get that led him to believe that? I don't want to. Now there are no parallels. Well, there are parallels in circumstances surrounding Charlie Kirk's death and Malcolm X's death. They're not the same people at all. They did not have the same belief system or structure. They did not have the same ideology. But what they ended up doing was they were showing that they were a threat to the status quo. They were a threat to the government narrative. They were a threat, right? They were beginning to shed light on and expose people and open people up to the people that are really in control behind the curtains. Now, they came about it in different ways, right? Malcolm X knew he was going to die. And if you know you're going to die, then why not do everything you can to prevent that death from happening? Well, it's because Malcolm X realized that everywhere he turned was an enemy that wanted to take him out. And once you get to that place, Nothing you can do about it. That's what they thought. And that's what they realized. That the level and the amount of enemies surrounding you, there was nowhere you could go that you could be truly safe. And once they came for you, that was it. Yeah, most people don't know what Malcolm X is or what he stood for. Free speech has changed, yes. Anyway, guys. Sam Hyde said Erica may have been a handler. I hate to say it. Well, according to TPUSA people, her mother was involved in intelligence with Mossad and all this other shit. I mean, she's connected, right? So why? I mean, I would believe it, but here's the bottom line. If Charlie Kirk realized the threat he was under and knew there was nowhere he could turn, nowhere he could go, because he was much too exposed and he was surrounded by people that could make sure that he was taken out. What can you do? What can you do when it's not just the amount of people, but where those people are, how much power these people have, and how much influence they have in your own circle? What can you do once you get to that place? It's like, well, I'm nothing I can do about it now because I can't go to the government because they're involved. I can't go to my people at Turning Point because they're involved. What I'm gonna do? Everybody that I've trusted for all these years, all these relationships that I've developed, well, they are more aligned with another entity than myself. They have more to gain from my death than from helping me. That's the same thing that happened to Malcolm X. Maybe even Martin Luther King. They knew. They can't tell the police won't help them. They can't tell their friends are going to help them, lining their asses up. All their allies. They might have one or two people they can turn to, but they don't have enough power and influence to stop anything. They knew they were going to die. They knew it was going to happen. And they just were like, okay, it's just a matter of time. Here it is. Kind of crazy. Once you have that level of influence, once you have that level of reach and influence over the people, and you're not controlled by them, you are the greatest threat to their agenda. You are the greatest threat to their power structure because, well, they may have been guiding you and manipulating you for all these years, unbeknownst to you. But once you come to that realization and you have the voice that they had, that is the greatest threat. Yeah. But the problem is your organization was infiltrated. And you came to that realization as well. And that's why you knew you were going to die, because you realized that you were infiltrated by agents that could no longer control you. And once those handlers and once those infiltrators can no longer control you, they take your ass out. It is what it is. Anyway, guys, that's all I got for now. TDS. Okay, I have trunk derailment syndrome. See, this is what I'm talking about. Anyway, much love. Like, share, subscribe. Thank you guys for coming through. Thank you for that super chat to Curtis. I really appreciate that. It's really solid, brother. Rob Curtis dropped the $20 super chat. Thank you for hitting that like button. Make sure y'all double tap that screen on the way out. And listen, don't focus on the personality. Focus on the truth. Focus on the facts. And when they tell you some bullshit, you got to be able to call it out. Much love. Like, share, subscribe, and let's keep marching forward toward freedom and truth. Peace.